Afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. My name's. I'm going to talk briefly about why the drylands. I think the first introduction showed that drylands form a big part of many countries. In Kenya, for example, 80% of the land size is dry land, and 40% of the population live there. In these areas, there's a legacy of historical marginalization. They're seen as remote, and again, very low infrastructure. All indicators of development are very low, and they have had a major challenge. They have many challenges like insecurity, in addition to the weather variability. And now climate change complexity has come in. So I would like then to talk why that alone shouldn't be a problem, but there is a fundamental problem of poor policies. Largely, the political elites in this country are either agrarian, and even if they are of pastoral or dryland background, they try to emulate the solutions of agrarian, they try to bring agrarian solutions. So there's really poor understanding, and later I will talk why it is important to make the decision makers know more about the dry land, and therefore ultimately sort out that. And why the policy, lack of that knowledge leads to poor policy and persistent poor action when these, vulnerability leads to malnutrition, among others, because this weather variability brings seasonality brings a lot of other problems in addition to malnutrition. And therefore the need to fundamentally try to make the people change at the top. And I will give a bit of my experience in the next level, the next slide. So the first slide, I think many of you will be familiar with. It will be operational level interventions, and I'll just give a few examples. Please, right at the beginning, try to make sure that the children stay with the herd, because pastoralists normally will split them up if it is dry and there is a problem and take the children to settlements. That's when the malnutrition comes in quickly. And there are a number of interventions that can be done: water tracking to the rangelands, having temporary boreholes in the drylands, and also taking water for drinking closer so that the caravans do not have to go for long periods. Other methods that are being used is once they come into settlements, if they have some lactating animals, fodder supplements to make sure that the animals, their livestock continue to produce milk, and therefore always children are prioritized among these populations. Strengthen livestock offtake, some of the things so that if there is buying of livestock, it puts cash in the families and therefore gives them options to buy food or milk for their children. It takes also shots that really destroy the rangeland of the rangelands. And I would say food aid should be among the last resort, particularly only in areas where there is no food availability in the market. That's at the operational level, and I'm sure there are many more examples I would give, but most of the people probably would know that. I want just to then concentrate on what are the policy and institutional and enabling environment that needs to be created. At one point, there has to be a national early warning of all the dryland. In Kenya now, we have had it for over 20 years. And initially, it was not well linked to action. So we knew there was a problem, and the actions were either not on time or they were not appropriate, and we had a number of them. So therefore, we need an early warning system that is decentralized, which means at a county or a district level, people know what is happening in their area and they can act and they have the capacity to do that. It must be linked to a coordinated action and so that we don't have inappropriate actions. The other one is actually the, okay, says my internet. Can everybody hear me? Supporting pastoralist mobility and domestic, both within the country and across borders. It's very important that because of the seasonal variability, pastoralists have adapted a whole system of moving around and making sure they keep their animals and their families okay, and therefore remove things like conflicts, make sure conflicts are either dealt with or stopped quite quickly. Also, that the international borders do not become a barrier. The other one is an integrated approach to resilience investment. I want to take a bit of time to talk about this because both at national level and international level, there is a major divide between development and long-term and humanitarian. And until the drylands are treated in a more long-term investment approach, I don't think we'll eliminate the problem of malnutrition as becoming a big problem. I'll give an example. Infrastructure. 200 kilometers away, food will be rotting, there will be plenty of rain, and just because infrastructure is very poor. During El Nino, Wajir County was cut off from the rest of the country for 6 months, and therefore it led to a lot of bigger problems. So infrastructure, human capital, both education, an educated mother would probably do much more, literate mother, to make sure the child doesn't go malnourished than an illiterate one. Illiteracy in most pastoral areas is very high. Investment in electricity and all the things that are foundation to any other production system must be in place. And therefore, at national level, rarely do those of us who deal with the livelihoods and malnutrition and nutrition included, do we incorporate the ministers of what you call infrastructure or roads. We don't include the Minister of Internal Security, because security, if it's not right, then malnutrition will kick in because people are vulnerable, they can't move their traditional movements. And therefore, in Kenya, for 2011, 2012, a number of years, we have tried that. As IGAD region, we came up with something we are calling ending drought emergencies, basically building resilience of communities. And until such an approach is done and institutions are put in place, like we have a drought management authority in Kenya, which is secretary to all these ministries, is not yet working perfectly. But I do believe once you have the policy in place, you need the institutions that wake up every morning, do not only do the drought cycle, but also coordinate all the actors. And for me, that's critical. Internationally, the same. They must buy into the long-term investment so that droughts do not have to, or seasonal variability do not have to lead to emergencies, including malnutrition. And therefore, I will end by saying there must be appropriate plans, and the strategy, both national and the county or district levels, must be one in which is knowledge-based, which is on early warning. It must be predictable. Families who live in that general area must know when this happens, this will happen to them, meaning there will be these following actions. You do not want people to wait until children are malnourished, until they are seen in the living rooms of the capitals and international community comes in. That's already too late. And therefore, we believe that that we need to invest early, appropriately, to build the resilience of these communities. Thank you very much.